Yeah, I think our concerns are twofold. Certainly one is growing class sizes and the impact that would have on student learning as well as on teacher workload, of course. The move from a ratio of 22 to 1 to 28 to 1 could mean significantly larger classes. We know in Trillium Lakelands that we run a number of smaller specialized programs, and a move in class average upwards by 6 kids could mean some classes, core classes, English, math, etc., could be running with significantly more students, potentially as high as 35 or 40, depending on how close the board intends to get to this 28 to 1 ratio. We're actually staffed right now below 22 to 1 as an average, and that's what allows small schools to function and what allows specialized programming to run. So those are the sorts of programs that we would be concerned about.
And you're waiting to hear how that's going to be impacted, right?
I think everyone at this point is waiting to hear. The budget comes out on April 11th. That would presumably set spending limits for the education envelope as a whole. And then we're also waiting on the grants for student needs, which is the specific board funding. The indication at this point is that that could come out around the end of April.
And how many positions right now could be, I guess, eliminated due to this move?
Yeah, and that's a huge concern of ours. The implementation that Minister Thompson talked about is a 3-year implementation, and she talked about making the change from 22 to 1 to 28 to 1 by attrition. Again, if the board were to achieve those ratios in Trillium Lakelands, it would likely mean the loss of about 51 teaching jobs. And what that impact would be on support staff, other adults that work with students, particularly high need students, we don't know yet. Again, we're waiting to hear what the funding looks like. We know there were some also changes in the announcement. The local initiatives funding envelope was canceled entirely, and that was a funding envelope that we get roughly $2 million in funding for this board from. And some of that funding went to fund small classes and also to support staff as well. So we're concerned about the future of those jobs and the future of those small classes also.
And how many jobs would that be?
Again, impossible to tell at this point because we don't have specific funding envelopes from the ministry. We have an announcement made by the minister, but it seems to be ahead of policy at this point. We're waiting at this point for grants for student needs to be announced.